"Not this family," my father said at Charlotte Douglas International Airport, 4 minutes after an airline employee told me the boarding pass I had booked myself no longer existed. Behind him, his new wife and her daughter were holding tickets paid for through my company account. I still did not know that a hotel in Maui would call me the next afternoon because my name, not his, guaranteed their trip. Behind me, my father shifted his weight and checked his watch as if I had caused the problem by standing there. Vanessa, his wife, had already moved her carry-on closer to the security line. Her daughter Paige stood beside her with a printed boarding pass folded in half, and Paige's 7-year-old daughter was tracing the wheels of her suitcase with one sneaker. I looked at the employee. "What do you mean it no longer exists?" She turned the screen slightly, careful not to expose more than she was allowed to show. "This reservation was canceled 4 days ago." For a second, I thought I had misunderstood her. I had booked the flights myself. I had reviewed the passenger list when I sent the final documents the week before. I had printed copies of every hotel confirmation, every transfer, every meal package. I owned a travel planning company. Reservations were not the part of my life that surprised me. My father stepped closer. "Nora, we're going to miss boarding." I did not look at him. "Who canceled it?" The employee hesitated. "The change was made through the agency portal attached to the reservation. The refund went back to the original company card." "And Paige's ticket?" I asked. Paige went still. The employee clicked through another screen. "A new ticket was purchased 11 minutes later using the stored payment method." My stored payment method. I turned around. "Dad?" Douglas Bennett had spent 36 years selling commercial equipment. He could talk through a delayed shipment, a bad quarter, a furious customer, and a room full of executives waiting for someone to blame. That morning, he looked at me with the patient disappointment he used when he wanted me to feel unreasonable. "There was a change in the family plan," he said. "What change?" "Not here. This is where you left me without a ticket." Vanessa glanced toward security. "Douglas, we need to go." He touched my elbow, guiding me several steps away from the counter. The gesture looked gentle. It was the same way he used to steer my mother through crowded restaurants after she became ill. "Vanessa wants this trip to be about our family," he said quietly. "Paige had a rough year. Her daughter has never seen Hawaii. You'll only make things uncomfortable." I stared at him. "What does that make me?" His jaw tightened. "Don't do this." "What does that make me?" He looked past me toward the security entrance, where Vanessa and Paige were waiting. "Not this family," he said. He said it softly. That made it worse. The terminal was full of ordinary sounds. Wheels clicking over tile. A child asking for a cinnamon roll. Announcements about unattended baggage. Nobody stopped. Nobody heard a father remove his daughter from the family in 6 words. I had spent 4 months planning that trip because he told me it could be a beginning. My mother had been dead for 3 years. He had married Vanessa 18 months after the funeral. Since then, every holiday had become a negotiation about who belonged where and whose feelings mattered most. Maui was supposed to be the first thing we did together, without pretending the grief had disappeared. I looked at the group near security. Their luggage was tagged. Their boarding passes worked. Paige was holding the seat confirmation that had replaced mine. "Did you know?" I asked her. She opened her mouth, then looked at my father. That was enough. Douglas checked his watch again. "Everything is already paid. I'll get you the accounting when we're back." "With my card?" "It's handled." "By whom?" He leaned closer. "Nora, please, don't make a scene in front of Lily." I looked at Paige's daughter. She was watching us now, her small face serious. I stepped back. "Go catch your flight." Relief moved across my father's face before he could hide it. He patted my shoulder as if I had made the mature choice. Then he walked through security with his wife's family and left me beside the suitcase I had packed for a vacation I had paid to begin. I went back to the airline counter. The employee gave me a written transaction summary showing the cancellation time, the refund, and the purchase that followed. She could not tell me who had been holding the device. She could tell me that the contact email on the reservation had been changed from mine to my father's 2 days before the cancellation. I photographed the screen where she permitted it. I forwarded the confirmation emails to a separate address. I asked her to place a note that no additional changes were authorized through anyone but me. Then I carried my suitcase back through the parking garage. I made it to my car before my hands started shaking. My son Ethan called while I was sitting behind the wheel. He was 23 and finishing graduate school in Virginia. I had sent him my flight information because he always asked me to text when I landed. "Aren't you supposed to be in the air?" he asked. I told him the basic facts: the canceled ticket, Paige's replacement seat, my father's sentence. Ethan was quiet long enough that I thought the call had dropped. Then he said, "Would Grandpa have invited you if he didn't need your company account?" The question hurt because it did not sound cruel. It sounded practical. I looked at my suitcase on the passenger seat. On top was the blue folder containing the resort agreement, airport transfer schedule, and welcome notes I had written for everyone. My father had praised me for making the trip effortless. "I don't know," I said, but I knew what access he had. 2 months earlier, I had logged into my agency portal from the tablet at his house because he wanted to see room photos. I had closed the browser when I finished. I had not forced the system to log out every device. Before I left the parking garage, I changed the password. I revoked every active session. I changed the company card's online credentials. I downloaded the portal history and saved copies in 3 places. Only then did I drive home. My suitcase stayed near the front door overnight. The next afternoon, I was at my desk reviewing client itineraries when a Maui number appeared on my phone. "Ms. Bennett?" a woman asked. "This is Leilani from the account services team at the Pacific Crown Resort. I'm sorry to bother you, but we need approval for an expanded charging limit on your master reservation." I sat straighter. What expanded limit? She listed the requests in a professional, even voice. An upgrade from one standard room to an oceanfront suite. Spa appointments, a private dinner package, a helicopter excursion. Full charging privileges for 3 adults. "I didn't request any of that," I said. There was a pause. The guests said the changes were approved before arrival. By whom? "The authorization we received carries your electronic signature." I opened the original reservation file on my second monitor. 3 standard rooms, airport transfers, breakfast, a fixed resort credit. No open account for incidentals. No helicopter package. "Please send me the authorization." "I can do that. Until we verify it, would you like us to pause discretionary additions?" "Yes. Do not cancel the original package. Do not remove them from the rooms I approved. Just pause anything beyond the original agreement." That distinction mattered. I had knowingly booked the rooms. I had paid the deposit. I could not call the entire trip stolen because my father had behaved like one part of it belonged to him. Leilani confirmed my instructions. "We called you because your company is listed as the financial guarantor. Your father said you would remain available remotely." I looked at the empty suitcase by my door. "He told me I wasn't family," I said before I could stop myself. Leilani did not ask for an explanation. "I'm sending the file now." The document arrived while we were still on the phone. My name was at the top. My company was listed beneath it. The spending ceiling was nearly 4 times the amount in the original agreement. At the bottom was my signature. It looked real because it was real. It had been cropped from somewhere else and placed on a form I had never seen. I recognized the exact slant in the N and the faint pixel break under the final T. 3 months earlier, I had sent my father a sample invoice carrying that signature because he wanted to show Vanessa what was included. He had not only left me at the airport, he had taken a version of me to Maui that existed only to pay. I told Leilani I had never signed the new authorization and asked for the complete account history. She explained what the resort could do immediately and what required review. They could pause unsettled upgrades. They could ask the guests for another payment method. They could not decide on one phone call who had assembled the document or whether a crime had occurred. That was fine. I did not need a dramatic accusation. I needed the records. By the time we ended the call, I had requested the original booking, the changed authorization, the account notes, and the email chain connected to the reservation. I also called my accountant, Mara, and moved our next meeting to that afternoon. My father called 3 minutes later. I let it ring once before I answered. "What did you do?" he demanded. "I stopped charges I did not authorize. You embarrassed me in front of the resort. You canceled my ticket 4 days ago. That has nothing to do with this." I looked at the altered form on my screen. "It has my signature on it. You were always going to cover the package. The package I approved is still active. Lily is here for her first trip to Hawaii, and now Vanessa has to explain why half the plans are gone. Then use your own card." There was silence, not anger, not outrage. Silence. That was the first moment I understood he could not simply replace my payment method with his own. He changed direction. "I'll reimburse you when we get back." "You said that 4 months ago. This is family, Nora." I almost laughed. The word had made a quick recovery since the airport. "Put everything you believe I agreed to in writing," I said. He lowered his voice. "You're acting like a businesswoman instead of a daughter." "I am a businesswoman. You used my business." I ended the call and opened a new folder on my desktop. I named it Maui Account Review. For the first time since the airport, I stopped asking why my father had chosen Vanessa's family over me. I started asking what he had expected my name to pay for. 4 months earlier, the trip had begun with coffee at my father's kitchen table. He had called on a Tuesday morning and asked me to come over before work. Vanessa was out with Paige. When I arrived, he had spread 3 travel magazines beside the sugar bowl. "Your mother always wanted to see Maui," he said. It was a careful sentence. My mother had wanted to see many places. She had spent the last 2 years of her life moving between oncology appointments and the bedroom window where she watched cardinals land in the maple tree. My father knew that mentioning her could turn refusal into guilt before I recognized what was happening. "I thought Vanessa wanted Italy," I said. "She does, someday. But I was thinking Hawaii might be something we could all do together. You, me, Vanessa, Paige, and Lily." I looked at him over my coffee. "All of us? That's the point." He said he wanted a new beginning. He said our family had spent too long circling the things we did not know how to say. He said my mother would hate the distance between us. I wanted to believe him so badly that I did not ask why reconciliation needed an oceanfront resort. I told him what the trip would cost. He frowned at the first estimate and asked me to use my industry relationships to build something better. That request did not bother me. I had planned honeymoons, retirement trips, and complicated multi-generational vacations for clients who needed adjoining rooms, mobility support, and dietary accommodations. I knew how to make a trip feel simple because I spent hours preparing for every way it might not be. The original arrangement was clear. 3 standard rooms. 1 for my father and Vanessa, 1 for Paige and Lily, and 1 for me. Airport transfers, breakfast each morning. A limited resort credit shared across the rooms. No open charging privileges. No expensive excursions unless each traveler paid separately. The deposit went on my company card because my father said a retirement account transfer would take several days. He promised to reimburse me before the next billing cycle. He did not. When I reminded him, he said his bank had placed a hold on a transfer. Then he said he wanted to wait until the airline schedule settled. Then he said it made no sense to move money back and forth when he could reimburse me in one payment before departure. I accepted each explanation because he was my father and because the trip had become proof that we were trying. Vanessa requested an ocean view. Paige wanted a separate sleeping area for Lily. My father asked about a private dinner on the beach. I priced everything, explained the difference, and kept the original limits in writing. One afternoon, he asked me to email him one of those forms with all the inclusions. I sent a sample invoice showing the package and deposit. It carried the electronic signature I used on routine agency documents. That was the signature I found on the expanded resort authorization. At Mara's office, I placed the original invoice and the altered form side by side. Mara had handled my books for 9 years. She wore red reading glasses and had a habit of tapping the end of her pen against any number she did not like. She tapped it several times that afternoon. "The crop is obvious when you compare them," she said. "But comparison tells us where the image probably came from. It doesn't tell us who placed it there. The portal log shows the changes came through the tablet at my father's house. It shows a recognized device session associated with that login. It doesn't put his hands on the tablet." "I know." She looked at me over the red frames. "Good, because we need to separate what you know, what you suspect, and what you can document." That sentence steadied me more than sympathy would have. We started with the airline records. My ticket had been canceled at 8:43 on Wednesday evening. The refund returned to my company card. At 8:54, a ticket for Paige was purchased with the same stored card. At 9:02, the contact email changed to my father's address. The portal session showed a recognized device that matched the tablet I had used at his house. The records did not show a face. They did not prove whether Douglas, Vanessa, or Paige had touched the screen. They established sequence, access, and money. I searched my messages for Paige's name. 3 days before departure, she had written, "Thank you for making room for me. Lily is going to remember this forever." At the time, I thought she meant that I had found seats after she decided to join late. I had replied with a heart. Now the phrase felt different. Mara saw my expression. "Do not contact her while you're angry." "I'm not angry." She waited. "All right," I said. "I'm angry." "Be angry. Just don't build your evidence around it." Next, we reviewed the resort agreement. The original document matched my records. The new form did not use the resort's secure signature process. It had arrived as a PDF attached to an email from my father. In the message, he told the account team that I preferred not to travel because of business demands, but remained happy to fund the family celebration. I read that sentence 3 times. Happy to fund the family celebration. He had canceled my ticket before telling the resort I had chosen not to come. He had not merely hidden what he did from me. He had created a version of me for everyone else. Generous, absent, and conveniently unreachable, except when a charge required approval. The account notes showed that the resort had questioned the informal signature. My father answered that family bookings were routinely handled through my agency, and that he had authority to coordinate on my behalf. I had never given him that authority. Mara highlighted the sentence. "Send a written revocation today. To the resort, the card issuer, and every supplier account connected to this trip. Keep it narrow. He has no authority to act through the company or use its payment credentials." I drafted the notice while she watched. I did not accuse him of fraud. I did not write that he had stolen the whole vacation. I stated that I had not authorized the expanded limit, the copied signature, or any future transaction. I confirmed that the original package remained valid while the disputed additions were reviewed. The distinction cost me something emotionally. A part of me wanted to shut off every room key and send them all back to the airport. But the original rooms were not an accident. I had booked them. I had agreed to the deposit. The resort had delivered what I requested. Protecting myself did not require lying about my own decisions. The pending charges were another matter. The helicopter excursion had not happened yet. Neither had the private dinner. Spa appointments had been reserved but not completed. The oceanfront suite upgrade was being held, not finalized. The resort paused each item while asking my father for an alternate payment method. The standard rooms stayed open. The airport transfer had already been used. Breakfast remained included. Lily was not stranded. Nobody was being denied food or shelter. My father's next text arrived while Mara was sorting the ledger. "You are humiliating us over a misunderstanding." I replied, "Send me the agreement you believe I made." He wrote, "You said you would handle the trip." I answered, "I am handling the trip I approved. I did not approve the added authorization." His response came quickly. "I raised you better than this." I put the phone face down. Mara slid a printed account history toward me. "There's more." The resort correspondence included a reference to an anniversary package for the following spring. At first, I assumed it was a promotional note. Then we opened the attached quote. My company name appeared at the top. Douglas and Vanessa were listed as travelers. The proposal included a premium suite, private transfers, and a 5-night dining package. Under billing notes, my father had written, "Use the same family agency guarantee as Maui." I had never seen it. The agency account contained 2 more inquiries, one for a Caribbean family reunion, another for a premium cruise over Christmas. Neither had been purchased. No deposit had cleared. But in each request, my father described my company as the continuing guarantor for family travel. Maui was not the final favor he hoped I would forgive. It was the first test. For the rest of that afternoon, Mara and I followed every inquiry linked to my father's email. Some were casual quotes. Some had expired. One contained a request to keep my card on file for a cruise deposit once prices dropped. None of those records proved he could have completed every transaction. Supplier systems required additional steps. Some would have called me. Some would have rejected the request. But the pattern was clear enough to change the question. The issue was no longer whether my father had hurt me at an airport. The issue was how much of my professional identity he believed belonged to him. Mara opened the terms for my merchant and supplier accounts. You changed the passwords. That was necessary. It may not be sufficient. She showed me the risks one by one. If disputed charges settled before review, my company card could approach its limit. If I filed careless chargebacks against expenses I had genuinely authorized, the issuer could question my account controls. If a supplier believed my agency routinely allowed relatives to use its credentials, they could restrict access while investigating. Client payments and family expenses had to remain completely separate. These are risks, Mara said, not predictions. You reported it quickly. You have records. But we need to clean this up like a business problem, not a family argument. I looked at the company logo on the account statement. I had built Bennett Travel Studio after my divorce, when I was 40 and terrified that starting over would make me look foolish. I began with a folding table in the corner of my bedroom. For the first year, I answered client calls while sitting in my parked car because it was the quietest place in the house. I learned supplier systems at midnight. I rebuilt itineraries when airlines changed schedules. I walked clients through hospital emergencies in countries where they did not speak the language. My father had called it Nora's little booking thing until the year my income passed what he had earned before retirement. Now he had used that little thing as a private family credit line. I thought about the airport again. He had told me I would make the family uncomfortable. My absence was not a side effect of his plan. It was useful to him. If I had boarded the plane, I would have seen the room changes. I would have heard the excursion requests. I would have known the resort believed I had guaranteed everything. He needed me gone, but he needed my name to stay. I signed the written revocation of his access and sent it to every relevant account. Then I created a second folder. Authorized, a third, disputed, and a fourth, personal charges. For years, my father had made every boundary feel like one cruel decision. Pay or abandon him, agree or embarrass him, help or prove I was not family. The folders gave me a different language. I could be responsible for what I had chosen without being responsible for everything he wanted. Vanessa called the next morning from Maui. Her voice was tight and formal, the way people speak when they have rehearsed being offended. I hope you understand what this has done to Lily, she said. What has it done to Lily? She was promised a helicopter ride. Now the resort says there's a payment problem. The original rooms and meals are still covered. The helicopter was never part of the original agreement. Douglas said everything was handled. Douglas said a lot of things. She exhaled sharply. This is exactly why he was worried about you coming. You make every family event about old resentments. The sentence landed differently now. Before the airport, I might have defended myself. I might have explained my mother's illness or the holidays when Vanessa moved family photographs to make room for hers. I might have mentioned the dinner when Paige asked whether I planned to keep using my father's house after the real family moved forward. Instead, I asked, "When did my father reimburse me?" Vanessa went silent. He told you he paid me, didn't he? He said the money had been settled months ago. It wasn't. That's between you and him. No. The moment you asked the resort to charge expenses to my company, it included me. She told me she had never asked to use my company. Douglas had described the agency account as a family benefit, something I provided because travel planning cost me nothing. He said I had voluntarily given my room and ticket to Paige after deciding work was too busy. I asked Vanessa to send me the messages where he said that. Why? Because he told the resort I chose not to travel. He told me I wasn't part of your family. Those are not the same explanation. Her defensiveness weakened, but it did not disappear. I knew he changed the passenger list. I assumed you had agreed. You saw me at the airport with a suitcase. She had no answer for that. Vanessa had been lied to about the money. She had not been lied to about my face when my boarding pass failed. She had watched my father walk away from me and chosen the trip. Both things could be true. She sent the messages an hour later. In one, Douglas wrote, "Nora wants Paige to have the seat. She knows this is important for us." In another, "Don't worry about the upgrades. Her agency gets special terms, and I already settled with her." A third said, "Nora can be sensitive about family changes, so it's better if we don't discuss every detail with her." That last sentence explained more than the others. He had turned my questions into a personality problem before I had a chance to ask them. Vanessa called again after sending the screenshots. "I don't want Lily in the middle of this," she said. "Neither do I. Keep her out of it." "Will you restore the charging privileges?" "No." Her voice hardened. "Then what was the point of me helping you?" "The point was learning what happened. Information is not a purchase." She ended the call without saying goodbye. Paige called that evening. She was sitting on a balcony. I could hear waves behind her and Lily laughing somewhere inside the room. "I'm sorry," she said before I spoke. "Tell me what you knew," she swallowed. "Douglas said you had too much work and offered your seat to me. He sent the confirmation and said you wanted Lily to have the experience. Did you know my ticket had been canceled? I knew they were changing the reservation. Did you know I didn't agree? Not until the airport. I let the silence stay between us." Paige looked down. "When the employee said your reservation was gone, I knew something was wrong. I should have stayed or asked. I didn't. Why not? Because Lily was excited. Because Mom had been talking about the trip for months. Because Douglas said you would calm down once we left." It was not a noble answer. It was believable. She sent me her messages with him. They supported her explanation. He had told her I was giving up my seat. He had also told her not to thank me at the airport because I might turn it into a sacrifice. Paige had not copied my signature. She had not built the future bookings. But she had seen the truth emerge at the counter and stepped through security anyway. "I'll repay the ticket," she said. "You don't have to do it today." I want it in writing, an actual plan. That surprised me. "All right," I said. "Send me what you can afford monthly. Mara will record it." Paige wiped her cheek quickly, irritated by her own tears. "Are you ever going to forgive us?" "I don't know yet." It was the first honest answer I had given anyone about forgiveness. My father learned that Paige had shared his messages before breakfast the next day. He posted in the extended family group chat, "Nora has frozen our funds in Hawaii and left a child without meals because she is angry about a seat assignment." The responses arrived quickly. A cousin asked whether I had lost my mind. An aunt wrote that whatever happened between adults should not affect Lily. My father's younger brother called and left a message saying there were lines a daughter did not cross with an elderly parent. He opened the resort confirmation. 3 rooms remained active. Breakfast was included. The airport transfers had been used. The family credit was available within the original limit. Douglas had his own personal card for incidental charges. Nobody was without shelter. Nobody was without food. I began attaching documents to a reply. Mara stopped me over the phone. "What are you trying to accomplish?" she asked. "Correct the story." "Which part?" "All of it." That will require sharing account details, signature images, and hotel records with relatives who have no role in resolving them. Is that good for you or the business? I deleted the attachments. My response was 4 sentences. The original rooms, transfers, breakfasts, and approved resort credit remain available. I paused only charges added through an authorization I did not sign. My company is still listed as guarantor for the original package. No child has been denied lodging or food. Then I muted the chat. My father sent a private message. If you continue, I will make sure people know how you treat paying clients. He drafted a review accusing Bennett Travel Studio of abandoning customers after accepting payment. A cousin forwarded a screenshot before he posted it. For 20 minutes, fear moved faster than reason. My business depended on trust. A detailed accusation from someone carrying my last name could sound credible, even when it was false. Then I opened his account classification. Douglas had never been a paying client. There was no client contract in his name. He had not reimbursed the deposit. The booking was recorded as a personal family arrangement using company resources. That had been my mistake, and I would never repeat it. But his threatened review could be answered with dates and records. I prepared a short response in case he published it. This reservation was a documented personal family booking, not a paid client engagement. The original authorized travel services were delivered. Additional charges submitted without valid company authorization were paused for review. I saved it and did nothing else. He never posted the review. The threat had worked on me because I assumed every attack required an immediate defense. Once I had a factual response ready, his leverage weakened. Mara and I spent the next 2 days reconciling every transaction. That process forced me to face my own decisions. I had approved the deposit. I had booked the rooms. I had authorized the transfers, breakfast package, and a limited family resort credit. In 2 emails, I had casually written, "Add it to the family package," without documenting who would repay me. I had left the card stored after my father missed 3 reimbursement promises. Those were not crimes committed against me. They were boundaries I failed to set. The copied signature did not become acceptable because I had been careless. The expanded limit did not become mine because I had once been generous. Both statements could exist without canceling each other. Mara built a final ledger with 3 columns. Authorized by Nora. Disputed authorization. Personal traveler charges. The first column held the original package. The second held the suite upgrade, helicopter tour, spa reservations, private dinner, and increased spending ceiling. The third held minibar purchases, boutique charges, and restaurant additions individual guests had made after check-in. Douglas kept trying to describe the trip as one emotional object. Either I supported the family vacation or I destroyed it. The ledger refused that argument. The resort proposed a private video conference to review the account before the pending activities were released or canceled. Leilani would attend with her manager. Mara would join me. Douglas insisted that Vanessa and Paige participate because, in his words, family decisions should involve family. I almost replied that he had already decided who counted. Instead, I agreed. The night before the meeting, I sat at my dining table with the original contract open in front of me. I considered disputing everything. For several minutes, the idea felt like justice. Let the card issuer pull back the deposit. Let the resort demand immediate payment from my father. Let him stand at the front desk and explain to Vanessa why the family name he valued so much had no available credit. Then I read my own approval email. Please charge the initial deposit to the company card. Douglas will reimburse before the next cycle. I had written it. I had authorized it. The fact that he failed me later did not change what I chose earlier. If I disputed costs I genuinely approved, I would be using the same logic he used. The outcome I wanted mattered more than the truth of the transaction. Ethan called while I was still at the table. "You ready for tomorrow?" he asked. "I think so." "Are you trying to get the money back or get Grandpa to admit what he did?" Both would be nice. But which one do you control? I looked at the ledger. The account, I said. And him? No. Ethan was quiet, then said, You don't have to make him suffer to stop him using you. After we hung up, I moved the original package into the column marked Authorized. I initialed the page. My goal was not to destroy their vacation. It was to end the version of family in which my father could erase me and keep my signature. The video conference began at 10 the next morning. Leilani appeared first from a small office at the resort. Her manager, Mr. Santos, joined from another screen. Mara sat beside me at my desk with the ledger printed in front of us. My father joined from his room in Maui. Vanessa sat next to him. Paige was in a chair near the balcony doors. Douglas started before anyone introduced themselves. This is a private family disagreement, he said. I don't understand why the resort is treating us like we did something wrong. Mr. Santos answered evenly. We are reviewing who has authority to approve charges under the agency account. We are not making any determination beyond the reservation and payment records. My father frowned as though the distinction insulted him. Leilani shared her screen. On the left was the original resort agreement I had approved. On the right was the expanded authorization carrying the cropped image of my signature. The difference was obvious when displayed together. The original used the resort's secure process and showed the date, authentication record, and spending limit. The second was an ordinary PDF attached to my father's email. Douglas leaned toward the camera. Nora told me she would take care of the trip. I asked, when did I approve the oceanfront suite upgrade? You knew Vanessa wanted an upgrade. That wasn't my question. He looked at Mr. Santos instead of me. We discussed all of this as a family. When did I approve the helicopter excursion? I asked. You said you wanted Lily to have a memorable experience. When did I authorize you to place my signature on that form? I did not place anything. It was administrative. Leilani opened the email attachment history. Mr. Bennett, the PDF was sent from your address. That does not mean I created it. No, I said. It means you submitted it. His face tightened. You sent me the signature. I assumed you would approve the expenses eventually. The room went quiet. Mara wrote the sentence down. I did not feel triumphant. I felt tired. My father had spent days changing explanations. First, the hotel made a mistake. Then I had promised to pay. Then family authority made formal approval unnecessary. Now he admitted the signature was used because he expected future forgiveness. Mr. Santos returned to the account. For our purposes, Ms. Bennett has confirmed that the expanded authorization was not validly approved. We will not release the pending upgrades under her company guarantee. Douglas spread his hands. So you're canceling a child's vacation because of paperwork? The original reservation remains active, Leilani said. The rooms, transfers, breakfast package, and approved resort credit are unchanged. Vanessa looked at him. You said Nora canceled the rooms. I said she froze the account. You said we might have to leave. My father ignored her and looked at me through the screen. You wanted this meeting. Fine. What do you want? I want the account handled according to what was actually authorized. Mara placed the ledger in front of the camera and explained the 3 categories. The authorized column would remain on my company card. I would accept those charges because I had approved them. Paige's replacement airfare would remain recorded separately under her repayment plan. The disputed upgrades would require another payment method or be removed. Personal purchases belong to the travelers who made them. Douglas shook his head. You're splitting hairs. No, Mara said. We're splitting transactions. Mr. Santos reviewed the pending items. The oceanfront suite upgrade could be removed without penalty because it had not been finalized. The helicopter tour could be canceled within the operator's deadline. The spa appointments could be removed. The private dinner had a small planning fee that my father could pay directly if he still wanted it. No one was being evicted. No one was being denied the trip. The luxury version of the vacation simply required a person willing and able to pay for it. Mr. Santos asked Douglas for a personal card. My father read the numbers from one card. A few seconds later, Leilani said the amount available would cover the personal incidentals and the planning fee, but not the full group of upgrades. He tried a second card. It was declined for the requested authorization. Vanessa turned toward him. "You told me you had moved money into the travel account. I was going to." "When?" "When Nora reimbursed the—" He stopped. I watched Vanessa understand the sentence before he finished it. There had been no special account. There had been no reimbursement. His plan depended on my card staying open long enough for him to call the final amount a family obligation. He looked back at me. "Nora, approve one payment. Just enough to keep the plans. I will settle it when we return." It was the first direct request he had made since the airport. No story about a system error. No claim that I had already agreed. No lecture about what daughters owed fathers. He needed my authorization. The hotel had called me, not him, because he had made me responsible for the trip after deciding I did not deserve to be part of it. I looked at the original contract, the copied signature, and the 3-column ledger. "No," I said. His expression hardened. "You're really doing this over one seat? This is not about one seat. It has been from the beginning. No, the seat showed me the truth. The account showed me the plan." Vanessa closed her eyes. My father leaned toward the camera. "You've changed." I stopped confusing access with love. Mr. Santos confirmed the final arrangement. The family would remain in the 3 standard rooms. Breakfast and transfers stayed in place. The approved resort credit remained available within its limit. The suite, helicopter tour, spa package, and private dinner upgrade were canceled. Douglas's personal card would cover the charges he had already made outside the original package. Paige spoke for the first time. "Lily and I are fine with the room we have." My father stared at her as though she had changed sides. The meeting ended without shouting. There was no security escort, no public exposure in the lobby, no crowd applauding me for saying no. There was only a final account note stating that Douglas Bennett had no authority to act through Bennett Travel Studio. That sentence mattered more than applause would have. The weeks after Maui were quieter than I expected. Paige sent her proposed repayment schedule the day after returning home. The amount was modest but realistic. Mara recorded each monthly payment. Vanessa reimbursed the spa planning fee she had personally requested, then stopped contacting me except for a brief message saying she had not known the full truth. I replied that not knowing the money details did not erase what happened at the airport. She did not argue. My father paid the remaining valid personal charges from his savings. He never apologized for the copied signature. He said he had been under pressure, that he expected to repay me, that family arrangements were always informal. Each explanation avoided the sentence I needed him to understand. "You did not have the right." I stopped waiting for him to say it. The resort removed his email from the reservation profile. I confirmed that every old device session had been revoked from my agency portal. I replaced the company card. I reviewed every saved payment method, every authorized user, and every account session. Mara helped me write a family booking policy that looked exactly like a client policy because financially, that was what it needed to be. No relative could use company credentials. No booking would begin without direct payment or a written schedule. No one would be listed under my guarantee unless I intended to be responsible. My supplier relationships remained active. The company card was never suspended. The resort closed the disputed authorization after documenting the account history and the replacement payment arrangements. Those outcomes were not automatic. They happened because I reported the issue quickly, preserved the records, accepted the charges I had truly authorized, and refused to turn a business review into a family performance. Some relatives continued believing I had overreacted. Others changed their tone after Paige confirmed that the rooms and meals had never been taken away. I stopped trying to correct everyone. My father and I did not speak for 7 weeks. I missed him. That surprised people when I admitted it. They expected anger to make absence easy. It did not. I missed the man who taught me to drive in an empty church parking lot. I missed the Sunday calls when he asked about Ethan. I missed the father who sat beside my mother's hospital bed and learned every nurse's name. Missing him did not make the airport less real. It did not restore his access. When he finally called, he did not mention Maui. He asked whether my business was busy. Then he asked whether I could find a good anniversary package for him and Vanessa. I said, I can send you the public booking link. You won't help your own father? I won't manage or guarantee the trip. He sighed. Everything has to be formal with you now. Anything involving my business does. He ended the call soon afterward. 4 months later, Ethan and I took a weekend trip to the North Carolina coast. It was not luxury. The hotel had weathered shingles, a narrow balcony, and a lobby coffee machine that made more noise than coffee. We booked one room with 2 beds because Ethan said he was not paying extra for a view we could walk outside to see. I made the reservation in my own name. I used my personal card. I checked the guest list twice, then laughed at myself for checking it a 3rd time. At the front desk, the clerk handed us 2 room keys. Should anyone else have charging privileges? She asked. My phone vibrated in my purse. A message from my father. Vanessa found a cruise. Can you make sure we're getting a fair price? For years, that question would have pulled me out of my own moment. I would have opened the link, compared cabin categories, checked cancellation rules, and told myself that helping was easier than explaining why I would not. I typed one sentence. I can send you the public booking link, but I won't manage or guarantee it. Then I put the phone away. The clerk was waiting for my answer. No, I said. Just me. Ethan took one of the keys and nudged my suitcase with his foot. Come on, the ocean is right there. We walked through the lobby and out toward the water. The wind caught my hair. The sky was gray and the beach was nearly empty. Ethan carried his own bag. I carried mine. For the first time in years, I was on a trip where nothing in my name belonged to someone who had left me behind.